I'm Gustavo Vilera. I'm originally from Venezuela. I studied in Berlin, interface interactions design, user experience design. But I'm today more interested in you. I already talked with some of you. I know that you're designers. And I would like to know a little bit of the experience that you have, because it's a workshop and I would like to give you as much so that you can take as much home as you can. So how many of you are already working in a startup? If you can raise your hand. Okay. How many of you are working with interface design already? All right. Studying? Right. Somebody that it's not doing nothing right now in a startup, it's not studying or it's not working, what are you right now related? Are you, for example, entrepreneur? You are perfect. Developers? And just interested in UX design? I don't see so many hands, but okay, it's enough. So how many of you know what it's UX design already, or think to know? Okay, so I will explain a little bit. What's the difference between UX design and, this is the title, sorry, just leave the office. So let's talk a little bit about what is UX design. So UX design, we start with design. Design is anything that has a plan. It means that you want to achieve a goal and you project something to do it. So why UX? Why user experience design? Because on that planning, you gotta focus mainly on the what, the where, the when of the user. You gotta focus on their needs. You gotta focus on what they want to achieve, and what are their problems. And everybody's like, yeah, obviously we wanna do that. Everybody wants to solve the user, but it's really kind of difficult to abstract yourself from what you think is great, from what you like, to what your target actually likes or needs to have. So what I'm gonna talk to you today, it's one of the methods that I learned at the school or at my university, a great teacher. And she inspired me actually to go into the UX design, and she always took us outside of the university. Almost never we went inside of the university. All the other professors were like, yeah, you gotta need to learn these tools, you gotta learn how to do personas, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And she always took us outside, because she said, on the real world, when you go outside like an artist, you will see the things differently. So you need to train your UX designer mind. That's what she used to say, and that's what I still do when I have my team. So what does it mean? Imagine, for example, we go every day outside, and we see every day the same city. We see every day the same statues, the same park, but it's not the same things that an artist looks at, right? Because they see it from another perspective. They see it from a more trained point of view. So what you need to do, or what I would like you to do after this workshop, is to go out with the idea that you don't need to go to a university to start thinking as a UX designer. You don't need to go to some school or wait until somebody has a university online to teach you UX design, to start thinking in how can you focus in the people that it's having a need on the problem that you want to solve. So now, what is the difference between UX design and user interface? So this is a lot of things I'm not going to read right now. It's just to give you an idea of all the terminology that we usually have when you talk in the university about UX design. The three most important that I would say is field research. I was talking about that right now. It's going out. It's really talking to people. It's really not thinking what you subjectively would imagine is the solution of it. It's face-to-face interviewing. It's really coming to the persons that you are going to solve the problem to. And it's the creation of user tests. Once you have a prototype, once you have an idea, you cannot just think that it's like that. You gotta create maybe a persona, you gotta create an imaginary person that maybe somebody will play inside of your team that will be the role of that user, and you have to test it against that person. You cannot always go to the street and try to expect that the people like it. For example, there's a very good story about Coca-Cola, that they felt the pressure of Pepsi-Cola. It was getting very, very, very important, and Pepsi-Cola was very sweet. So Coca-Cola said, everybody loves Pepsi-Cola, so we gotta make Coca-Cola sweeter. And they took it out, they tested, everybody liked 1 glass of Coca-Cola sweeter, was great. But nobody would drink 2 liters of Coca-Cola now because it's too sweet. So they needed to go back to Coca-Cola Classic. And that's the same thing when you have testers. You can go to the street, you can talk to your people, you can do your research, but you cannot expect that you will have the reality just from one small interview. It's for you to make yourself an idea of who is the person that you're talking to, so that you can play this theater role when you're doing your testing inside. Another very important thing is the design of UX is never finished. You gotta think that you gotta go iteration through iteration through iteration. Why? Because society changes. It's like Facebook, never finished. You always have, some people don't like what they do, some people like what they do, but it's constantly changing because the society is always changing. So this is a great, cool office where we are every day. Maybe some have some nerves. You see a lot of that now in the developer rooms. But this is not really the place where you're gonna know about your users. You need to go out. You gotta leave the building, you gotta leave the office, you gotta leave the computer, you gotta stop using all these prototype tools and thinking, yeah, the menu should be here, and I read the book about faces and they told me that this is the way that it should be. It's theory, it's good to have a background too. But like I said, society always changes. A great example of that is my son. Everywhere he goes, he tries to touch things because he learned to play with the iPad. So for him, everything is a touch screen. For me, it's not like that. So you gotta know, depending on who you're working with, have a different concept. So inspiration exists, but it has to be find you working. That's Picasso. But what he doesn't mean is this. So you are not gonna be inspired if you are every day 12 hours on your computer like a zombie. You gotta work, but you gotta go outside. And then we go again to this concept that I say as an artist. For example, you have a photographer. You're a designer, you're a creative person. And if you're a photographer, you gotta train yourself to go outside, to have one walk a week, to try to see the world from a different perspective. You cannot go with a camera and do photos like that. You gotta go really with the perspective. I'm gonna go today out and I'm gonna do some pictures. I'm not gonna go with my family, I'm not gonna go with my kids, I'm just gonna go out to do some pictures. So for the UX experience, or for the design point of view, it's the same things. Why? Because it's the arts and the crafts. Crafts are all the programs that you need to learn. It's Photoshop, some people actually do on Flash directly the prototypes. You can do whatever you want. You can do card sorting, you can do personas, that's your crafts. But the arts is the creativity that you can put inside. It's your trained ability to find solutions, to see problems. And you need to train that on your everyday. So this is us, the small artists. Everybody starts, painting nothing. And even when you are a designer, especially, most of the problems that I see is a designer comes out of school and starts working in an agency, and he's always working in a project. He never doodled or had an idea that's going nowhere, that it's just for him. He just did some sketches for some crazy idea that it was going to change the world. Make a new microwave, for example. Just the simplest things. Just how can I make the elevator be smarter? Why do I, after I push the elevator, can I not take it back? That kind of small little ideas is what will bring you actually to become a master artist. So you always got to sketch even to have the master ideas. So we're now outside. What are we going to do outside? So, okay, you say, let's go outside, let's talk to the people. It's not only talking to the people, it's talking to yourself. You start thinking like that. Because if you want to be an artist, you got to sketch. You cannot just work and say, okay, welcome, you come outside of the school art, you gotta paint the 16th chapel, and that's it. So you gotta start training with the small little solutions, start finding small little problems, start putting your mindset in, okay, I want to solve problems for people, if that is what interests you. Actually, I was talking with two of the guys here before, and we said, UX people are usually the ones who ask questions, who wonder, why is this like that? Why it's not like this? Why nobody thought about this? Could it be better? And this is the small little trainings that you can do in your everyday. So the same reality that you have, the same street that you walk every day, but one day you just go out and you decide to see it from a different perspective. You decide to see it from a different point of view and make something beautiful out of that. So that's why I would like you to take today home from the workshop. This is what a designer gets when he gets into the agency. So this is the project that we have to solve. We gotta do the website for this bank and ta-ta-ta. There is no room here for mistakes. Here you're not gonna try to invent something great. And so you're gonna go as traditional as you can. Look at these planes, really. Like with the computer and technology that we have right now, they just don't wanna risk it. They will never go with some new technology and try to put it on the plane because it's too important to play around with it. But you as designers are forced to become more creative, to have these projects for yourself, to train yourself into becoming better solving things. What are the things? You go out to the ATM, and then you see this, I hate this. When I just don't know where's the button there. I say, is this one or is that one? And then they don't put me on my language, and everybody has it differently, and then like this, every day you just take the day out and decide to see, okay, how can I make the best washing machine ever? One of the exercises that we did is we went once a week to MediaMarkt, that it's what you would say here, Ellipso, and then we took one device. So today we're gonna take microwaves, for example. And we were all to see the microwaves, to see what has a great interface, what has a bad interface, which one is very easy, which one has something interesting, which one doesn't have anything interesting, and what can I combine to make it better for my solutions. First focus on yourself, it's the first user that you have. And then you can start focusing in other persons. So this one is the one I bought. It's much simpler than this one. But it's still not the one I would build, but it was better. So this is what you should do. You go into a hotel. I went also into this hotel. And what does this, you just didn't know what was the light for it or what was working on it. But you gotta ask yourself those questions. How would I do it? How would I solve that problem? And after you do that, I say don't have any excuses. Just shut up and go out and train. So if they can do it, we can do it. So it's just take the time. You wanna be better. You owe it to yourself. So go outside, see the world, try to find problems inside of it, and try to solve it, try to become what you want to be. Now, a little bit from my experience, for what I've been working lately with my guys, it was in a gambling and gaming industry. And when I started in the gambling and gaming industry, of course, you gotta learn that you're not the target, like always. So that was what I thought, now I'm in the gambling industry, and it's like cool, and the girls, and the high fashion, and James Bond, and so. But this is the reality from casinos. It's really old people, most of the time, that enjoy themselves because they don't have many things to do in many countries. For example, in Greece or in Venezuela, in South America, you don't have all the cultural opportunities that you have in Europe. You cannot walk on the streets. You don't have a safe place to be. So they spend the whole day on a machine doing ting with their friends. So it becomes a social thing. And then at the end of the day, they want to see who won more, who won less. They lie to each other, and then they go to bingo, and they try to be next to the one who is always luckier. It's a great thing. It's really a social experience. So what I want to say with this is you're not the target. You always got to go outside, like he said. Go outside, see the people, interview them. Sometimes you got to sit them and look at them after you have trained looking at yourself. And you will never catch everybody. This is how many McDonald's you have in the United States. And they put millions and billions of money in marketing. And still it's a lot of people who hate McDonald's. So go out of that concept. You're never gonna do something that everybody's gonna love it. You focus on that small, how do you say, not clique, but small user type or persona that you want to satisfy. And just work for him. Try to make the test against him. Try to become, in a way, him through the research, through the interviews, and also through the ability that you already have of looking for problems and trying to find solutions. Right? So that's all for now, folks. So I would like you to ask me as many questions as you can regarding the workshop. How would you want to, for example, improve your UX design way? I don't know, we said that the question should be here, right? Okay. Wait, I can show you, for example, one of the examples that we have from our programs on the casinos lately. Here. So, everybody was doing on the casinos the typical slot games, right? They just focusing on the money and on the prices and on the images, but they were not really solving the social problems, or not the problems, let's say the social needs that the user had. When I went out to see in the casinos how they would play, they were really touching the screens. They were believing that the way that they touch the screens would change the way that the results come out. They will always trying to look to find out how can they look for the symbols upside and the symbols below. Like I say, they try to see how many friends they have. They believe that if they put more money in, they have more chances to win. They believe that if they play less money, then afterwards they will have more money, that the machine is playing against them. And it's not like that. It's all mathematical. There is really nothing, maybe luck is inside of that, but not because you touch it in a special way. So anyhow, we know that they want to have this experience. We know that they want to have this feeling of having some kind of interaction, of helping themselves to win. So we try to put what is completely new on these applications, and it's the fact that you can actually touch individually one of them, or each of the reels. You just don't stop them. You try to make the figures that you went out. That's what they actually do when they are outside in the casinos, that you are able to move them from the sides and see it from above and see maybe which one is the symbol that you could have had if you would have had a bit more power into it. Okay, so that's just a simple example of how something that already exists can just through very small little changes be a bit more engaging for your user. So that's it.
Okay, so is there anyone who has questions? You can join me here. Jacob. This guy always has questions. So Gustavo, one of the first things that you were talking about, and you mentioned this project with different logos, different pictures, when people are buying some coins to play, some chips to play the games.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you tell us a little bit more?
Of course. For example, on this application, when the user buys credits, from one of the ideas that I had was, when you see all the other casinos, they're buying money, piles of money, right? And then they get very much afraid of giving money to get money. So we decided to change this whole concept and not put piles of money into them, but change it into images of, for example, a walking person, so that it would represent what kind of person you are. If you're the person who walks, if you're the person who goes on the bicycle, if you're the person who goes in a car, if you're the person who goes in a boat, or the person who has, I don't know, a jet, and so on, till you have the person that has a rocket, that he really can do everything he wants, and he can buy, like we said, these 500 euro chips just because he wants to. And you will be surprised that there are actually persons who would buy 500 euro chips just to show off, just because he knows through 4 months he will give out 500 euros because he likes to play, so he just do it at once. And then on the Facebook, because it's everything interactive, it's everything related with their friends, then he gets more status and their friends, and he also has the feeling that the more money he has, the more he will win and things like that. So one of the things that I found very interesting is that they don't want to see money when they're buying money. You want to take them as far away from money when they're buying these fun credits. And the other thing is that they really feel that they need to represent themselves. If they have a sports car, they will not buy the 2 euro chips because that's a guy that is walking, or the 5 euro chips because that's a guy who's on the bicycle. They will buy the one that's to the car that they have.
One more question, and then I'll finish. So you mentioned that you're going out, but before going out, what is the most important thing?
Well, you have two things. Going out as a training method, like as a UX designer, is just really focused that you're going out to do this. Like I said, go to Ellipso and decide before you enter Ellipso, today I'm gonna study the blenders and I wanna find out which one has the best interface, how could I do the best blender? And you do it for half hour. You don't need to make a Photoshop project and finalize it just for yourself, just for thinking about it. And then the other thing is when you are in a real project, when you really want to have a project outside, when you're in a startup, you got to have, well, most of the times life is not so easy. So if you're working with somebody, first you got to convince your client that he is not the goal, that the goal is his users. That's the most difficult part of a UX designer. Because everybody says, oh, I want to have a UX designer that's cool, that's new, that's fresh. But when you tell him that's what it's going to sell, and he says, no, I don't like it, then how do you sell that to a person who wants to be the user of his application. So you really gotta have a little bit of touch on that. Most of the times you have to prepare already the person for it, but okay, it's not related maybe to going outside, but it kind of brought me to what are the problems that you will have inside of it. So when I go outside, I try to talk with my client, what are the problems that he wants to solve? So that he tells me, I want that the people likes the product more, I want to have more conversions, I want to have this, I want to have that, and then go outside and try to solve these problems through the interviews, through the persons that I go outside, so that when I come back, I say, here, it's not me thinking crazy with my personas, it's data that it's telling you that they want to have this, or that lets me know that this might help you out through the goals that you want to achieve. So those are the two differences, when you're going for yourself and when you're going to convince your client that that's the thing that you need to do.
So my question is, I like your example with the slot machine on the cell phone. And I get, where did you get the idea to make it like virtual? When you move it around, you can see the hidden symbols, because people in the casino, they do that. They look around. But how did you get the idea to make them, stop the wheel with their finger?
The people do that. They touch it, like they want some.
In the casino?
Yeah, even if they don't have a touch screen, they touch it because they wish that their energy goes into the slots. And when it stops, it's, yes, I will do the exact same movement the next time. And you see them doing exactly the same movement. When it doesn't work, it's like, what did I do wrong? Why? So they do it. I was very impressed. I thought first was one lady, and then if one lady does it and she wins, all the other ladies are gonna do it.
They repeat the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cool. But when you have an idea, you think it's really better, but you're not sure. How do you test it in the real world? How do you get at the data?
It's what I was telling you before, sometimes even the test, you can test it to somebody and say, that's really cool, but he would not play that for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. I'm having actually that issue with this application. It's cool the first time that you play with it, mm-hmm. but eventually if you're playing for 2 hours and the reels are moving constantly, I know you're gonna have your eyes be a bit, muted. How do you say when you're tired? Your eyes are gonna be a bit tired. So you will want to stop it. So we offer the opportunity that you stop it. So you can have the 3D experience, or you can stop it if you want. They need to know about it. So you actually are, like I said, always improving. You start with an idea that comes out of the data, you bring it out again, then you get a few slaps. Your idea sounds good, but it was not that good. Mm-hmm. And then you go back and retest it, do another iteration, and then go out again.
Mm-hmm. Do you always test your designs with direct users you find, or you use some user testing services?
Right now we don't use user testing services for this kind of applications. Lately I've been working a lot with private companies, and they all want to be very hush-hush, and they all have their own group of testers, either because it's internal use of a company, or in the case of the casino, they have already 200 persons that are like recruited as testers, and then they always get extra points and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot about test companies. Actually in Berlin, it's a friend of mine has become very big doing this. He just gets people on the street, and they get paid for going to a room, and cameras everywhere, and they just want to see his experience. How would he play with it? How would he do this? Sometimes they gotta bring their own laptop and go into the sofa and be there for 2 hours, and then they tell them, you need to play, you need to look for this, and then they analyze from another room everything what they're doing. So there is also a lot of opportunities in that area. Yeah.
That's great. And one more question. I remember you talking about the student project, the redesign of the coffee machine. Maybe that would be interesting to the audience.
All right. So one of the projects that we had in the university, I mean, like I said, with all these machines, was to reinvent or redesign a coffee vendor on the streets. You know, these big boxes that you have where you go and you select one box and you get your coffee, right? So went outside, and then you realize that the problem is that only one person can buy a coffee for 6 minutes. So the solution for that was obvious. They put 6 machines. So then 6 persons could get a coffee. Great. But then you don't have enough space. And you started thinking like, how can I solve this? One machine cannot be round, and everybody can come around that, and then comes the artistic part, like, coffee comes from Italy, so let's make it like a fountain, so that you have this semi-private place in the airport, it's like a fountain, and everybody can come, they see each other, they can talk to each other, and then comes the fantasy part, and they say, we will go to the phone, and they will recognize you, will know the kind of coffee that you like, but that's exactly the kind of project that you do as a personal project, so that you can dream a little bit about what are the solutions that you can have. In the real world, you will just come maybe to the round shape. You will not go so far yet. But it's good always to try to push it a little bit and try to see what would be viable, what would be cool, what would be a minority report cool.
Yeah. Well, sometimes even your cool personal projects become really big if you put them on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, people like them, and you really build them.
Yeah.
So that's all for me. Anybody else has a question? Just come here. Don't be shy.
I agree.
So, hi everyone. I have a question about, actually a couple of questions regarding the process of the UX design. So, on your project, do you manage to take enough time for the research part and go to kind of concrete prototypes, wireframing, and stuff like that? So how much time can you invest into this research part, just doing interviews, going out, talking to people, and
well,
on average?
On average, it depends. I can tell you from my experience. I like you would say in Germany, it's life. It's not a pony stall, you know. You will love to have a lot of time to do research, and you will love to do everything what you learn, but your clients will not wait forever, and they don't always believe that all these papers and all this data is gonna be so good for them. So you really gotta say, okay, this is our MVP, and that's when you go with the concept of a lean startup machine. We're gonna have to solve this goal, this problem in this amount of time, and we go with our most viable product. Because you will never make the perfect product from zero. So you gotta, like I said, you gotta stop maybe sometimes thinking as an artist that that's a piece of art that's gonna be forever there, and you gotta really see, okay, this is the problem I wanna solve, I've gotta go with that, and once you are satisfied with the idea, you accept the idea that your product will never be finished. Then you are more easygoing and say, okay, I wanna solve this problem, I'm gonna do a little bit of research to solve this problem, I will get all the data, and then I will start solving this problem and changing and mutating all around it. Some clients, they really give you 1 year to do something. This teacher that was inspiring me a lot, she did the websites of most of the German and French banks, and they were months working on that. And they really were interviewing hundreds and hundreds of persons for it. But they had the time, they had the money. So no problem.
So you're kind of saying that the goal is to kind of iterate on
that it's not only the goal, that's reality.
Yeah.
Like I said, society is gonna change.
Well, one other question I have is actually, do you kind of try to, when you have the idea, try to write it down or draw it or something like that, and then let it kind of grow? Or do you try to think about a problem and then try to have multiple solutions, or work with a team and have, in order to not to let the first idea spoil all the others?
You're coming to the error that I always see designers coming. And that is, you're thinking in agency, you're thinking in product. You're gonna solve that while going on your own outside, trying to solve these small little things, trying to make the best microwave ever. And while you're playing with that, you will figure out what's for you the best way of doing it, with yourself. And then you become faster into knowing how do you prototype better. Just think a lot about that, and then after you have the idea, you just draw it and take it out, or you prefer to see and talk and sit down and see people. For me, I love looking at people. I ask people, why would you like, even the people that works in Ellipson, say, well, which one is the best one, this one, why is that the best one? And other people don't, they just want to try everything. So you gotta first train sketch, you gotta know how you are more creative. So there is no way for everybody for that. And then you bring that into your agency, then you bring that into the real projects. But it should start with your sketch, with just for fun.
So do you try to kind of make a couple of versions, different, because when I usually try one idea, I go and try to improve it, but maybe some idea if I started kind of the other way, I could get to much better goal if I tried a much different idea.
One question, Luca. These ideas that you are telling me that you're trying, these are ideas that are projects from the university? These are ideas that are just for fun? What kind of ideas are these?
Some of them are business ideas. So if I try, this is important and this is important. Maybe if I tried, I don't know, 10 different versions of this project, just initial sketches, then maybe I would go to a better solution. Then if I know, wow, this is great, this is my first idea, this is great, okay, I just need to know this part and this part. So how do you manage to, or do you even manage to make a couple of versions of your each idea after the research?
Well, after the research, it's difficult. First, you always test it with your team. First, you always test it with the user type that you have, the prototype that you have as a person. But like I said, now I do rely a lot on my feeling of how would I solve that, because I had a lot of projects that I just didn't care about. I just did one prototype, did another one, and threw them away. And I did that weekly, like once a day, just made the best coffee machine, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And then I know when I really like an idea and when I don't like it, because I have no pressure in thinking about those stuff. If you're always working a real business project, then you always have the pressure, which one is the best one, which one is not the best one, should we go with this one? You have all this risk on you. So you don't really, like I said, you cannot play with it. You go safe, and you make the perfect safe playing, and you think safe. My client must be happy, this must be happy. So I would, like I said, really just reinforcing, become more into yourself. What is your process? And then you will solve for yourself, you will know for yourself what is the idea that you like most into that. But definitely, if you like one idea, it will change. Yeah. No enterprise, no startup that I have seen until now, they had this idea of this project that was going to be like that, and it ended up being like that. It always mutates, it always pivots here and there. Many times they just discover great products out of chance. They just realize that this small little button that they put there, everybody loved it, the like.
Yeah, that's the point, actually. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
No, please, thank you. Somebody else.
So I have a question regarding target audiences. So for example, you have to make an ad for the grannies and grandfathers playing games in the game shop, and what if you couldn't find any of them out on the street? And you went out of the building and you just find I don't know, kids and stuff, and you don't find these people that are going to use the ad.
Okay, so usually if the client or the product is trying to target someone, you should know demographically where they are. So I would then say, for example, what was for me a problem was I am doing this application for the Greek market and the Spanish market, and they are very different markets. And I can go to Greece and look a little bit how they are, and I go to Spain and look at a bit how they are, but the market is there. But like you say, I cannot find them, I cannot be with them the whole time. So it is really a risk that you have to take. It's really trying to put yourself into that persona, trying to research, how does he look like? He looks like this. You try to, for example, what I did a lot, funny enough, is I looked into YouTube. A lot of people put videos in YouTube for when they won in the casinos. And then you put from Spain, casino, and then you see how they are, how they're excited, how they react in the video, their live videos on the casino. And then you can see how it's different, the casino, when the people win in Brazil, it's like euphoria. Everybody is doing videos and social in Brazil. And in Spain, nobody, like, I don't know, they don't have so many, maybe the crisis, they don't have so many smartphones. And in Greece, it's more hush-hush, that you don't have these big casinos. You have like internet coffee places where people sit down and then they just click very quietly. So it is true that sometimes you just gotta, imagine how it would be, but then with the data that you have, and that it's a very important thing that you should maybe be in connection with your developers, try to think, how can you have some data back to you? Because not only taking it out, but it's really trying to get some feedback. Is the people responding to it? Is the people not responding to it? And then I would like, or I do have A and B. So 50% of the people who use this website, they will go to the A, the other one go to the B, and then try to get some feedback out of it, because I cannot be in Greece checking out the computers to see how are they liking it better.
So basically, sometimes when you can't do it, you just have to test things.
You gotta, like I said, try to go creative. I don't know from where I get the idea to say, maybe they have videos in YouTube. It worked. But sometimes it just doesn't work, and you gotta try to figure out how can you get data back. So if you cannot go interview them, try to get data back. That's the only thing that can help you.
I have one question about, let's say, personal projects.
Mm-hmm.
So before sometimes there was, I don't know if you know, there was a program for Mac called OmniFocus.
Yeah.
And they put it OmniFocus 2. And I downloaded it, and it just sucked. And now I thinking about how to improve it, how I would build it for myself.
Yeah.
So what you can say about projects that, let's say, solve my own problems.
Yeah.
So so should I test, or should I just do it, with my own thinking and to solve my own problem?
Why not? Most of the very successful enterprises that they could made it because they wanted to solve their problem. It just happened that they had a problem that a lot of people also had. So I would really reinforce, if you have found something, like for me the problem for the coffee machine, that's the way I would solve it. Maybe in Germany it wouldn't work so well. People don't want to look at their faces, especially when they're doing things. So if I want to buy a coffee, I think the test would tell me that the Germans would not like to be buying a coffee and looking at somebody else buying a coffee. They would prefer to be next to each other buying coffee. Still, I like the idea very much because I would love to have that. So since it's a personal project, I would do it that way, maybe in a semi-private space, where, I don't know, in a big bank or in a place where you want people to socialize, that would work. So definitely I would say, yeah, go for yourself and solve the problem that you have. And that's an advantage that not everybody has. A lot of people want to solve problems for clients that want to solve other person's problems.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So, for the end, Gustavo, thank you for the presentation and for the answers on our questions. I hope you liked the event, the presentation, and I would like to invite you to some drink, to take it here, but also to join us in time, because as
free beer.
As our sponsor said, we have free drink, it doesn't need to be beer. So, yeah, thank you once again.
Thank you. Let's go.